Now, back to the challenge I mentioned earlier, which is you cannot always influence other people. When our daughter Rachel turned 14 and she was getting ready for high school, she came to me and she declared, I'm going to pierce my eyebrow and I'm going to pierce my navel. In our family, this is how we communicate. We don't really bring topics up. We just declare things so that other people are up to speed. So she said to me, I'm going to pierce my eyebrow, I'm going to pierce my navel. Now, I don't always succeed, but I try to practice what I preach. And so immediately the two questions are coming to my mind. Why? I've got to make a choice relating to my daughter and how I will parent her. So I said, Rachel, answer a couple of questions for me. Is it still your intention while in high school to get a job? Yes. Great. Is it still your intention when you finish high school to apply to the best schools and hopefully not only get admitted, but get a scholarship? She said, yes. I said, then you can't pierce your eyebrow. She said, why not? And I said, because old people run the world. What's that got to do with anything, she said? I said, simply this. Old people, the people who give you jobs, the people who give you scholarships, the people who decide to admit you, don't like facial piercings. She said, well, that's not fair. I said, I agree. It's not fair. It's not right. But we are not dealing with that right now. We are dealing with your ability to get the outcomes you want to get. We are dealing with the world as it is, not necessarily as it should be. Now, she's very smart, so she now says, but Dad, they won't see my navel. Well, my ability to influence her has just gone out the window. And the temptation to manipulate, to move to dad power, is very, very high at this moment. But I'm trying to practice what I preach. So I said to her, man, Rachel, you're right. At least unless you're going to be a lifeguard, they're not going to see your navel. Years ago, I used to read research by a psychologist. Her name is Dr. Barbara Coloroso. And she said something very interesting that has stuck with me for years. She used slightly different language, but she said this. When you cannot influence another person, you have to decide whether what they are wanting to do is an issue of principle or process. And then she defined what an issue of principle is. She suggested that if what they want to do is unsafe, immoral, unethical, or illegal, you need to intercede and force them to make the better choice. But if not one of those things, then it's what she would call an issue of process. In other words, to bring her research into this discussion, she's saying, Richard, if you cannot influence Rachel not to pierce her navel, you need to ask, would piercing your navel be unsafe? Well, not if properly done. Would it be immoral? No, because it's just my moral code. It's not an absolute moral code. Would it be illegal? Well, she's under 18, but with my permission, no, it would be legal. Would it be unethical? No, I can't make that argument either. So I said to her, you know what, Rach, you have me. Now, because of the standard I applied, I decided to adapt, to roll with it, accommodate it, fine, pierce your navel. I could have answered those questions differently and decided to act and forbid her from piercing her navel. This is not so much about there being a single answer as a single approach. And the approach is this approach we call the two questions. How much control do I have here? What is the best use of my energy?